while it was an amazing experience, it was also very difficult to plan just because a lot of the information that's already out there is very scattered. And so what I ended up doing was pulling information from TripAdvisor reviews to Instagram story highlights. So I thought, why not share kind of what our experience was? And if I were to plan Petra all over again, this is what I would do. Starting off with the first question that gets asked a lot is, how long do you spend? I initially thought that it was just somewhere that you go to, you walk around for a couple hours, and that was it. However, that is not the case. Petra is a huge city in itself, and you need at least 2 full days. Here's what I would recommend if you're spending at least 2 days in Petra. The first option is to check out the treasury, the surrounding caves, and then also the royal tombs. And then from the royal tombs, you would do that 2-hour hike up all the way to the highest vantage point of the treasury. So that is day 1, and then on day 2, you would go and do the treasury and then the monastery, or else you can just skip the treasury altogether and then just do the back door and then just see the monastery. The second option is to do the treasury and monastery on the first day, and then to do the nearby caves, the royal tombs, and then the hiking to the vantage point on the second day. The second question that gets asked a lot is, where do you stay? So when you're doing Petra, you stay in a town called Wadi Musa. So when you're looking at a map of Wadi Musa, the visitor center is located at the bottom of that hill, and all the Airbnbs and a lot of the other hotels are located at the top. So while it is possible to walk every day, it was very, very difficult after a 6-7 hour hike. However, if you do have a car, I would recommend driving to the visitor center every day, and it is very easy to park. There is plenty of parking. Third question that gets asked a lot is whether or not you should buy the Jordan Pass. So if you're spending 3 nights and 4 days in Jordan, in my opinion, it is worth it to buy the Jordan Pass, just because to go enter Petra one day with nothing else is 50 jod, and to get into the country of Jordan, it is 40 jod. So right there is already 90 jod, which you're paying just 1 day into Petra, and also the visa, which is way more than what the Jordan Pass would offer you at for 3 days of Petra and all these other attractions. So we did the math, and for us, the Jordan Pass did make sense. However, if you're spending less than 3 nights in Jordan, you're not actually eligible for the Jordan Pass. The fourth question that gets asked a lot is whether or not you need a guide. So just because there wasn't much information out there, I was scared, and I thought, well, if we're doing a wonder of the world, then I want to know all about it, just because when we were in Egypt and doing the Giza pyramids, it felt just kind of like aimless walking around, and you had no idea what certain things were. So we ended up doing getting a guide through Viator and paid, I think, $400 or $500 for about 4 to 7 hours. And this was a private guide. However, looking back, I feel like we did overpay. When you're getting a guide in Petra, 2 to 3 hours, I think, is more than enough. And you can find these guides right at the visitor center. So they have guides available if you want to do a private guide. I think it's about 60, 70 jod per person. And they do about a 2 to 3 hour type of a tour. And it's all I think it's the Sikh and also the treasury. However, what I didn't know is that the visitor center actually offers free tours. I think it's up to 10 people, and it's about a 2-hour tour. I think it might just be very, kind of general of going through what the Sikh is and also what kind of the treasury involves. But I feel like that's honestly very good for if you're spending more than a day. Just kind of get the lay of the land a little bit on your first day. Just do one of the free tours and then go from there. The fifth question that gets asked a lot is, when's the best time to visit? In my opinion, the treasury is the busiest part of Petra, and if you want the treasury all to yourself, I would say you need to be at the treasury by about 7 or 8 during the winter, and about 6:30 to 7 in the summer. What we ended up doing that was actually kind of pretty cool, and we got to enjoy a lot of the treasury to ourselves, was we went super early. As soon as Petra opened at 6 a.m., we went in and we enjoyed the treasury for, I think, about an hour before people started piling in around 8 a.m. And then what we decided to do was we left Petra and went to get lunch, took a nap, just kind of recharged, and we came back into Petra at about 4 or 5. And that was the best time because everyone had already left or in the process of leaving. And the treasury is like almost, I wouldn't say no one was at the treasury, but it was a very limited amount of people, which made it very enjoyable. So the sixth question that gets asked a lot is photos. Where are the best photo spots and how do you get there? A lot of what you see with the treasury, unless it's directly in front of it while you're in the sand, like directly in front of it where the camels are, that area is free access. However, if you're trying to get to any of the higher vantage points, those parts are actually closed off and you need to get access with a bedwind. So the middle spot, or just kind of like a little bit upper, is only about a 5-minute up climbing some rocks, and you do have to pay a bedwind, and we paid 5 jod per person to enter those areas. And it was actually the best money spent because not only did they give you tea, they also took all your photos and videos. Like, if you weren't satisfied with all of your content, they would make sure that everything was correct before they kind of left you. Talking about photo spots, the highest vantage point of the treasury, there's 2 options that you can do. I didn't know this before, and I also only saw from people's stories and whatnot and highlights saying that, oh, the higher spot is a lot more dangerous. That is partially correct. So if you enter the highest vantage point of the treasury from right where the treasury is and you pay a bedwind to like climb up those rocks, that can be dangerous just because you are going directly up and scaling like a rock basically. However, if you do what we decided to do, there's actually a paved hike, which was very, very enjoyable. It only really took 2 hours altogether, and that is accessed through the back of the royal tombs. So after you pass the last of the royal tombs, you're gonna go right and you're gonna see a little sign in which it'll show you like exactly where the hike is, and you go up and you hike for about 40 minutes, I wanna say, and bedwinds home, and it will say, in order to access, you have to pay a little bit for tea or whatnot. So you don't actually have to pay to get in, but you do have to pay for like a beverage or whatnot to kind of enjoy your time while you're at that higher spot. The 7th question that gets asked a lot is, what is the back door? So our guide actually told us, so I initially thought the back door was somewhere that you get dropped off right next to the monastery. You enjoy the monastery and that's kind of it. However, that's not the case. A lot of the back door hikes start from either Little Petra or like a point pretty close to Little Petra. And even with that, you still do have to hike. However, that gets you directly in the monastery. So if your goal is to just see the monastery for that day, or if you're only here for the monastery, then you can consider the back door. 8th question that gets asked a lot is transportation, and is Petra accessible? I was actually pretty surprised by how accessible Petra was, just because from the entrance gate to the Seek, you have golf carts and shuttles that will provide the entire service there, and it's about 25 jod per person. That'll take you from the entrance gate straight to directly, literally in front of the treasury. Then from the treasury to the monastery, that in itself is about 30-40 minutes leisurely walk, I would say, through kind of like the valley. That you can get a donkey or even camels to kind of take you through there. It's all pretty straightforward, pretty paved. And then the next big hike is from the bottom of the monastery to the top. For that part, you can also hire a donkey, and to go the way up, it was very safe, but it was just the way down. Relying on donkeys was a little bit suspicious. However, it is doable. So you could technically do Petra all on either donkeys, camels, and or golf carts. Another question that gets asked pretty often is Petra at night. There is so much information out there about Petra at night, and for the most part, I want to say it's negative, just because a lot of the reviews out there say that there's a lot of people, it kind of takes away from the intimate experience. However, this was actually not our experience. I asked my tour guide of the best way to see Petra at night, and he suggested to enter the park right before they closed, and so that's exactly what we did. We entered the park around 5 p.m. and by around 5:40, we were already at the treasury. And so we kind of hovered there for a while and kind of just sat right next to the convenience store slash restaurant slash gift shop. And we kind of stayed put for about an hour and a half. Around 7:30, this guy did come around and start ticketing. And originally my intentions were to leave before the show, so we technically didn't really even need a ticket to Petra at night because we didn't want to stay for the show. I just wanted to be there for the setup and shortly after setup so I can kind of get those photos, get my videos, and kind of bounce. Around 7:30, the guy came around and he started a ticket, and I told him that I would leave before the show, and he said that, well, if you were to stick around at all, you need to pay. So long story short, I did end up paying the 17 jod per person just to kind of stick around even for the setup. Around 7:40, everything was pretty much set up and everyone started taking their photos. Our show started around 8 p.m. with the music, with kind of the light show, and only 1/10 of our seats and the seats on the map were actually filled by people. And so for our experience, it was actually very quite intimate and very enjoyable, and we were able to, enjoy the light show, the music, and also tea kind of to ourselves. And I honestly thought it was very much enjoyable of an experience. So at around 8:40, 8:45, while we were leaving, there was a stampede of people just coming in through the Seek, and that was probably 10 to almost 15 times the amount of people that were there during our seating at 8 p.m. I think there might be 2 different seatings for Petra at night, at least maybe on the Monday, because that's the Monday that we were there on a Monday.